Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show from the CPRS Conference, hosted by Craig LeBlanc. In this episode, we're joined by Aaron Locks, founder of the National Academy of Athletics and host of Youth Sports Mastery, as we dive into the power of youth sports. From building confidence and resilience to teaching teamwork and leadership, this conversation highlights how play transforms lives, on and off the field. If you're passionate about creating impactful programs and inspiring the next generation, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
All right, we are live again. Our second guest, our host of the Youth Sports Mastery Show and the owner and founder of the National Academy of Athletics. He has a California resident for how long?
Since 1967. So yeah, I found a way here. We moved from Brooklyn in 1967, and we haven't left. Well, we've left, you know.
Yeah, fantastic. And so how many years have you attended CPRS?
This is my 7th conference. I've been a member, and we did 3 years, took a year off, and then came back for 4 years in a row.
Yeah. So why don't you tell a little bit about what the National Academy of Athletic is, and then even like why did you found it?
Yeah. So the National Academy of Athletics is based on partnering with Parks and Recreations primarily and schools to help bring rec sports programs back to communities. You know, youth sports have taken a punch in the mouth, a kick in the tuchus, and you know they need more kids playing. And so to do that, we partner and help bring affordable rec, 14 different sports back to communities. So that's why we got this thing set up.
And so I hear you speak a lot about how it's important to have these kids have fun. If they're not having fun, they're burning out, they're really not wanting to be there. What does that do to their learning ability for them to discover how they can move their bodies in new ways in these new sports? When, you know, if you're comparing a kid that, you know, is not having fun versus a kid that's just loving being there. And let's just say this kid is just not athletic in any direction.
Right. Well, there's no such thing as a non-athletic kid. I tell everybody there's no such thing as a non-sports kid. There's a kid that hasn't played it yet before.
Love that.
Sports teaches so many different factors. That's why we want everybody playing multiple sports. If you think about it, it's like your child's body is an all-terrain vehicle, and they need to learn how to drive it. So when you play flag football and you have to backpedal, that's learning balance, right? When you throw a baseball or catch a baseball, hand-eye coordination. Spatial relationships. You know that kids that play multiple sports, they're the ones that in the airport don't stop in the middle of the traffic and block everybody.
Yeah.
You know, they understand there's other people around them. So it's so important on that development physicality. But you know what else? It's the mental side. And that piece is so important because they learn empathy, they learn leadership, they learn failure, resiliency. So I don't think there's any better life skill teaching tool than youth sports.
Yeah. Let's kind of dig a little bit deeper into the things that you pick up in youth sports that are applicable to every part of your life, but you possibly only learn these skills or learn them very efficiently within a youth sport program that then you can carry on. What are some of the skills that you develop in youth sports that you end up using the rest of your life?
Well, we ping pong this for 4 hours, right? It's a great topic. Yeah. I would say to start with, let's pick one. How about kids taking a healthy risk? Learning to take a healthy risk. When you are going to get up and take a shot in the game of basketball, you're risking the fact you might miss. And so you're learning courage, right? You're learning to deal with the fact that, yep, I'm going to take my shot. There's a chance. In fact, 7 out of 10 are probably not going to go in. Right. So you're learning resiliency. You're learning that you have to transition. All those type of things just from shooting a basketball, right? Baseball, you learn, right? You get up at bat, right? And there's a chance you're going to strike out, right? And so what we try to do is to teach the ability. Just one of them, which is like Joe Montana taught me, to fail fast, fail forward. In sports is really more about failure than success. It's really about teaching those skills. So there's a whole list: teamwork, camaraderie, all these things that we use every single day, friendship, empathy, learn how to lose, right? You know, learn how to lose without feeling like you're a total failure. Because if you did your very best, okay, it may not be good enough then, but guess what? Shake hands, come out again, and let's try again.
Let's talk about the dynamics of learning teamwork in sports versus in other areas. So, you know, you can learn teamwork on a science project in school, but you can also learn teamwork on a sport none of y'all have ever played. Let's talk about the different dynamics of each of those.
Yeah, teamwork is an interesting thing because it takes a willing participant, and there's no such thing. They say these natural leaders, and I think maybe there's something that's inclined to people, but realistically, it's those that have been given the ability to fail without judgment. And then they're the ones that feel like they can take the healthy risk to step up and lead. And it's interesting because, when you talk about leadership, there's three basic types. There's the top down, which is actually easy. I'm the boss. I said so. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's the bottom up, which is like, okay, I'm the new kid on the team. How do I learn to fit in and navigate and become a part of the team and acquiesce to whatever it is? And then the toughest one, I think, is peer to peer. How do we interact? How do we work together? And I feel like through sports, and again, it's different per sport, but the basic concept is pretty straightforward. And that is that when you're out there, everybody's expected to do the very best. And I feel like there's a rhythm. Pat Riley, the coach of the Lakers, taught me a good team is like a great jazz quartet, right? So you got the drums, you got the trumpet, the trombone, the bass, the guitar, whatever it is, and they all play together. And then all of a sudden, you got to improvise. So hit it. And then they da-da-da-da-da-da, and then they come right back in rhythm. That's what teamwork is all about.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some of these other populations that you're involved with. We've got the kids, and we've talked a lot about them, but let's talk about the parents. A lot of parents come with what, and so what are the things that are you kind of have to coach the parents through that they're bringing their child, and they have all their expectations and stuff. What's the kind of conversations you have with parents?
So if you're a youth sports parent, I think the first thing we got to do is we like to say, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's not just wrecking yourself, it's wrecking your kid's positive experience in the sport, because parents cannot make the experience amazing for their kids, but they can absolutely ruin it for them. So we have to find a way to let it be their journey and to support them. So we do parent orientations when we run our leagues. We just finished a league in Sonoma County with 2,400 kids playing basketball, 11 different locations. And so we meet with the parents, try to explain that we need to allow the kids to have the opportunity to succeed and fail on their own. And one thing, like a perfect example, is when your child's out there playing, the parent feels like, well, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do, so I'm just going to scream and yell, go this, that, work harder, whatever. Well, I don't know what you do for a living out there, parents, but I would assume someone screaming and yelling at you is probably not going to fire you up, right. Probably trying to do the job, right? So if you are going to say something, we like to say get like-minded with the coach. If the coach it's baseball and they say throw it to the cutoff, right? Mm-hmm. Then you say throw it to the cutoff. Instead of yelling, throw it home, you're going to get him. Because that means that the child has to decide between the coach who's supposed to know what's going on and the parent that feeds them. When we put our kids in those situations, we set them up for failure. And the last one I'll give you is the ride home might be the most important part of any youth sports experience. A good friend of mine, VJ Stanley, and a lot of people have talked about this. As parents, we watch our kids go through the experience, and then we want to talk about it after. Well, how come you did this? And how come you didn't do that? You know what? Stop. Because if you do that, they're going to quit. For me, what I remember with my kids was by the time they got to the snack bar, that game was done. Right? The game's over. Give them $3. Let them go get a smoothie or whatever it is, snack bar, whatever, and then they're done with it. Later on, you can talk about it, but trying to process when they just lived it, especially if they didn't have success, be careful.
Yeah.
Most kids quit after 2 seasons because it's too much pressure. It's not fun. And that conversation is very dangerous.
And I know as parents and, as a father, and I don't know if this is a masculine issue only, but, you have this easily measurable. Did they win? What was the score? Did your child score? Did there was any success that you want to talk about? But how do we have the parents measure, did my child have fun? Yeah. Did they develop, were there any, soft skills that were developed? Because there's not like a scoreboard of child's racking up soft skills or learning teamwork, right. But how do we kind of shift to parents to say, hey, maybe not pay so much attention to the scoreboard and whether your child played and stuff like that, but how do we measure, these are the other things your children are picking up?
One of the biggies that we talk about through the National CAF Athletics, and again, I learned it from working with John Wooden, was to focus on the effort rather than the result. And the problem that happens is if you're in a soccer game and there's 12 kids on the team and the final score is 1-0 and your kid didn't score a goal, which 9 out of 10 kids or 11 out of 12 didn't score, you can't measure that based on a win or loss of the game because that's not a direct effect. So there's little wins throughout that we have to find. As an example, when I coached my daughter's 3rd grade basketball team, there were a bunch of little just, get after it. We made a rule. We wanted to get 10 shots attempts every quarter as a team by making team goals, and they were a part of that. because the girls were afraid to shoot because they were afraid to miss.
Mm.
So we literally brought a chalkboard, so to speak, on the sidelines. Got an old chalkboard, imagine that, right? And grease board, there you go. And they're on the side. And every time we shot the ball, we would just make a mark. And if we shot 10. Now, it doesn't mean we had to make them. And by the way, someone went over the backboard. It was hilarious. And our team was cheering. And the other team was like, what are they doing? But you know what? I figured we'd make 2 because of luck and 2 because of skill. That's 8 points a quarter. 8, 16, 24, 32. We ended up winning the championship with that team.
Oh, I love that.
So it was cool. And again, focused on just the effort. Now, as we progress through the season, then we get our goals a little bit more tight. Okay, now we want to shoot, make sure it hits the rim. And now we move along the process.
Yeah. Now, how do you encourage your young athlete to be almost like a good coach, a good teammate? Because sometimes your best coach is just your teammate encouraging you. And so how are you encouraging them to, hey, take care of your team, congratulate your team, tell your team is going to be okay, congratulate them on taking the shot, not just beating them down for missing the shot?
Well, and we actually take it a step further. So at the National Cadet Athletics, we've developed the high five program, and we have 5 different categories, including teamwork and sportsmanship and others that help. So if you make a basket at camp, you need to turn and congratulate the person that passed you the ball.
Oh, nice.
Right? And we watch those. And if you do 3 of those minimum a day, then at the end of the day, you get a wristband that's a high five wristband that you get to keep.
Oh,
and those are coveted even more than the kids that are good skilled that can actually make the basket. So we really talk about celebrating the effort, but also your team and congratulating them. The other thing that we celebrate is when a kid goes down, you help them up.
Yeah.
And so that's part of it. And that's just, it's part of teaching them to be a good citizen too, right?
Right. All right. So let's talk more about the coaches. What makes a good coach? What are the skills that, let's say you're let's say you're a volunteer coach and you don't know anything about coaching. And so what are the things that you kind of want to develop as a young coach?
So first, when I do the coaches clinics, I always raise my hand and say, how many teachers do we have here today? And there may be one teacher in the room. And then I'll say, how many teachers? And finally, eventually, they all raise their hand.
They all get it.
Because if you're a coach, you have to teach, because you can't hold them accountable to something that they've never learned. So first of all, remember you're teaching. And don't make assumptions, because if we assume they can do these things, you're really going to get frustrated. I tell all the coaches that they need to keep it simple. I went to a clinic, and the guy came up, and he had a playbook with 7 different plays for his 4th grade basketball team. And I said, that might be 7 too many. Right? Yeah. So keep it simple. You want to have a plan and a practice organization schedule. It's really frustrating when you go out there and you go to practice. You're like, oh, I'm not sure what I want to do today. So what we do is we teach the coaches to have a practice schedule. We start out with the RSBQ, rhythm, speed, bounce, quickness, warm up, get their bodies moving. And then we go what's called talk, teach, play, 3 minutes of verbal instruction, 6 minutes of skill development, 6 minutes of play, and then water break, reset. So they get taught the skills and rotations, and then we end on a high energy competition. If you can focus your energy as a coach on your practice time and then let the kids play during the game and pretty much leave it be whatever it is, that's when the game is fun. The kids will learn more, and they're going to want to keep playing.
All right, so let's go ahead and close with, what is your
the best thing that we can do in service of is to help kids fall
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.